Welcome to our first YouTube video on Lotus VALORANT Laboratory. Today we're diving into the exciting news from World of VALORANT. The map Lotus has undergone massive changes and I'm here to analyze them for you. Whether you're a seasoned player or just curious about the updates, this video will provide a comprehensive breakdown of the new features and alterations. Stay tuned as we explore every corner of the new revamped Lotus map, giving you the insights you need to stay ahead in the game. Let's jump right in. So let's start with the current version of Aong and what are the changes that are happening here in this cubby area. And the changes are pretty huge because, well, they add an entire new space. The new angle over here that is straight up 90 degrees is gonna be insanely important for the defenders as it adds a lot of possibilities for them. Now, why? Well, the thing is, in the current area on Aong, this has absolutely no cover, so only escape artists agents are able to play in this area, like Jet, Chamber, Yoru, to some degree Reyna if she gets a kill, and only those characters can essentially play here. Maybe Omen as well because he has a TP, but you guys know how long it takes to actually use the TP, right? So other characters cannot really play in this area because the only thing they can do is destroy the doors, announce they're there, right? And then they can go through to cover to escape being killed. Now that's a big issue. With this change being made, this adds another layer of cover for the defenders now for every character, and requires the attackers to spend additional resources in utility and manpower to check this angle. Now that's incredibly important because of something that we're going to talk in a few minutes, because the change on the A side that removes the tube from the side makes it harder to hold for the defenders. So now this area is more important because we have to, well, control it, because letting them go on site is going to be easier for the attackers. So we have to put the fight forward, right? We already know how typically it's being played in the rubble area, because this is like something that happens very much often. We have a paranoia, breach stun, and then a combo of flashes and TPs and the raise grenade to control the space and deny the potential jet dashes, raise satchels going into this rubble area. Now, if you fail at controlling this small space as a defender, you have to fall back and control the site, right? But right now, site hold is gonna be tougher. So you're gonna have more incentive to hold this area over here, because this change to this angle right here and the new box in this space adds another layer of defense that well, the defenders have to use. Otherwise, they're gonna be wrecked on site. So when you're gonna be playing now Lotus on the new iteration, you're gonna have to put a lot more effort into this cubby, which actually is so much more easy to defend than it was before. Pay attention also to the box on the right not being wallbangable anymore, which is another huge change, because that's again something that the attackers have to waste utility on, right? And that makes it again easier to play for the defenders. And also remember that because of the new cubby in this area, now you're gonna be able to actually set up a crossfire. Look at this. Someone standing in this area over here can play on contact, right? And then the person standing behind the new box that is not going to be shot through can peek on his contact and get the trade. So this is actually incredibly hard to clear without any utility, which makes me happy, because maybe it will force people to actually use utility a little bit more in ranked. So now all of those changes actually make it easier for the defenders to play in this area. So that's my verdict for this change on the Aong. Now the next change is gonna catch you off guard. On A side, yes, you guessed it right. There are more flowers on the site. Incredible. Thank you, Riot. Now, obviously, the flowers is not the only thing that changed on this side. As you can see, the area inside of the hut got deleted. The hut is just essentially now a brick with a small cubby on the back of it, and this changes everything when it comes to holding this site. But I think the best way of visualizing it would be actually in game. So let's just straight up jump into the current build of Lotus and showcase how does this affect movement on this side for both attackers and defenders. to show you in gameplay how it looks. Now imagine that this space here doesn't exist, right, anymore. If you're gonna be holding this site and you're gonna be standing in this position, you can be literally just walked around by the enemies that are gonna be crossing from this position next to stairs. So you're gonna have to be like very, very, very aware that that is not happening, because you're not gonna see if someone is in this area over here. So now we're gonna have to play like more on the backside from here to make sure that you have the control over that. But then you're also exposed to tree a little bit more because you're in the longer angle. And the person that was typically playing in tube over here was very flexible on holding both of those positions, so he was able to help his teammate. Right now, with this wall being just added here, you don't have that position anymore. So this is going to be much, much harder to hold as a defender. Now let's take a look at the position from the attacker's point of view, because those changes here are huge as well. If you're going from tree onto site, right now you have to worry about the fact that someone can be inside of the tube or on backside at the same time when you leave this area, right? If a person is playing from tube, you can also like literally just go around and peek from this area very fast while not being fully exposed from the backside of here, right? Right now, after the change on the tube, that's not possible. The only thing that you're gonna have to hold is this area over here and potentially drop, but that happens very rarely. So essentially only this area over here. That allows you to be more consistent with your crosser placement, because you know that you're not gonna get swung by someone standing in here, inside of the tube, which is, well, great. It's much more consistent to clear as well, because now any damaging utility is gonna have to put over here like a molly, and you clear essentially the entire of the backside, because again, no one gonna be inside of the tube. So all of this space is denied, and utility pieces like paint shells, like nano swarms, viper mollies are gonna be much more crucial here on attacking than they were before, because they're gonna have just much more value. Now, when it comes to plant spots, the potential plant spots on the A side, there's actually one, well, more than one added, but one that makes a lot of sense. So now, in this area over here, you were not able to plant before because it was kind of out in the open because of the, well, hut, right? Because of the tube. But right now, because this is a straight up wall in front of you, you're able to plant next to the wall and hold it from tree in a very easy angle to spam through, right? Because the player diffusing is gonna have to be in this small area over here around the spike, which essentially helps you to kill him through a smoke or just purify that angle when someone is tapping the spike. So that's one additional plant spot that is added for the attackers that makes sense. Of course, it's not better than the default plant behind the box here, behind the wall, because that particular area is just such a strong position for both tree and from both A cubby. And remember, A cubby behind this side had also changes that now add potentially a little bit of angles for the attackers in post plant, right? So you can also plant in this new cubby on the backside, but I'll be honest with you, I don't think that's smart unless you're just literally in a 1v1. In a 1v1, you can definitely think about that, because now you can play a cat and mouse game around this side, right? You can just move around when it comes to those potential positions because of the lack of the tube section. Your opponent will not be able to catch you because of that, so you're able to like just move around it and play time. So in a 1v1, this could be a good plant in this cubby. In a more, let's say, bigger team positions, I wouldn't not recommend it. And I know that you guys are gonna think, oh, look, think about that, we can put a sage wall in front of it. Don't play sage on this map. Thank you very much. Don't do it. Just don't do it. It's not a good character on almost any map, and specifically not on Lotus. So don't go for the sage. Now, a good point from the chat as well. There's probably a way of doing a one-way on this position or on this position, which also makes it harder to diffuse if the plant is being done next to the wall. So Omen has probably gotten a little bit more value. Although I remember checking from the previous iteration on Lotus that you couldn't do a one-way inside of the tube. So we're gonna have to check that. Now, what's the verdict? As I said multiple times during the section, this is a huge attacker's buff. All right, let's jump into B side as the change here is pretty big. So let's just show it. There's a whole new 50-50 angle added to the B side. As you can see clearly now, this cubby was not here before. It also changes the potential default plant because now the default plant is gonna be in this corner over here next to the wall and not in the spot next to the small box as before, because this is the cutoff for the plant spot, right? But at the same time, this changes the way the attackers have to go into here, because now they have to worry about left and right. They have to worry about the 50-50. So that's an obvious verdict that this is a buff for the defenders, right? We're not gonna beat around the bush here. But the thing is that this angle also makes it easier for retaking as well. So when you're gonna have the spike being planted and you're able to smoke off the spike, now when you're gonna be pushing the opposing players in this area, you're gonna be able to play from both left and right position against the players hidden in the B main. So this is harder for both post and pre-plant for the attackers, and also this is a huge buff for potentially Killjoy, because now Killjoy typically, by the way, that turret is awful. Don't use the turret on the box here. It's really bad. Like, it doesn't really give you much. Not many Killjoys even use it for like any kind of play. It's just like a information. Oh yeah, someone's there, right? Don't do that. Like right now, you can play a turret stuck in this corner right here. Wait, let me just. This is a turret, okay? This is a turret. So right now, you're going to be able to put a turret in the corner that is going to be hard for the opponents to clear, because they're going to have to commit and go out of B main. And on the contact of the turret, you're going to have a nanoswarm, right? Then on the other side, you can put an alarm bot as well. And I'm talking about potentially a full setup on B, because C has gotten huge changes and we might not actually see Killjoy being played on C anymore. But we're going to talk about that in a bit. But in general, this is a huge change from the defenders, and it's much harder to just attack without any movement abilities. Jet dash might be incredibly important while attacking B side, because you're gonna be able to side dash into a smoke and check the corners, right? Check left and right while doing that in the typical Jet fashion. So that might be important. And also potentially there are some new setups possible for Cypher as well, but that's something that we're gonna have to check in the game, because there's a small chance we're gonna be able to do a trip going from here to here based on the angle that this small pillar has that is built in the wall over here. Let's jump straight up into the door section as well. Leave a comment, how do you call them? Is it baby door, hobbit, or something else? And let's talk about the change over here, because it adds a small 50-50 area that we'll need to test out in the game. There's a small chance that a person standing in this corner is going to be visible for the person going through the door before this person sees the attacker. So just like in Bind and Showers, you're going to be able to see the leg of the opponent first. This might be a similar case here as well. Now, this change also allows Cypher to put a trap over here through this space. And that's gonna be a very strong trap, because you have to peek out and go into the trap before you're able to destroy it. So this is gonna be an incredibly strong trap for the control of this area. Let's jump to the Seaside, and thus this part of the map got so many changes, it essentially feels like a new map. This is the old version of the entrance to the Seaside. Now, after the changes, there's actually, everything is different. Everything is different. We have a new 50-50 angle added over here with a new box, so there are many possible angles for the player to stand in. We have the new double boxes that are moved towards the back when you like think about the old box over here on the seaside. As you can see, it's moved back next to the stairs that now they create a ramp that also has a potential plant position. So all of this is completely different, but that's not all. Also, when you go to the rest of the seaside, you're gonna see other changes, because now you cannot plant on the backside of C right here. This is not possible to plant anymore, right? You have normal box that typically Killjoy puts a turret on, because now it's more in the corner on the right side of it. And one of the biggest changes of them all is this brick wall in the middle of the site. And because C got so many changes, I think I'm gonna explain first the two most basic things that got affected by those changes, which is the plant spots and how Killjoy plays. So first, let's talk about the plant spots. Because the old plant spot, the most popular one, was in the corner over here, and in the corner over here, this is the safe spot, right? Because you were not able to be killed from CT and waterfall. This is all changing. I'm gonna show you something. We're gonna put in a straight line from CT into the corner of the plant, right? And now we're gonna swap to the changed version of this brick wall, essentially. You see that there's a bigger gap right now than before from CT to the corner, which makes it easier to kill the planter in the corner from CT. But that's not the only thing, because right now you're not gonna be able to plant in this blue area over here anymore without being exposed to one of the angles for the defenders. Because right now, if you plant in the blue area, you're exposed to waterfall, but you're not exposed to CT. And if you plant now in the pink area over here, you're gonna be exposed to CT, but not to waterfall, which changes the dynamic of how you want to play on this map right now on the seaside, because most likely the best plant spot that you're gonna try to achieve is gonna be in this corner over here, which changes everything. That's gonna be the safest plant spot at on the seaside, right? Because you're gonna be only exposed to the area that I'm gonna mark as green, because you cannot be shot through waterfall, you cannot be shot from CT, and the only person that can shoot you will be on site that actually peeks through the edge of the wall over here. So this changes everything, because right now 95% of the plants on the seaside are in the corner, or maybe in the default safe spot, right? But those plants are allowing you more to play from mound or from long, even if it's planted safe in this green area over here, you can still hide on long. Now with this yellow plant in the corner over here, that's not gonna be possible. You're gonna have to play more on this side. So be prepped for that. You're gonna have much bigger change to your behavior happening right now on Seaside than on any other map. I would say on any other side, any of the changes that were made on any map so far in the game. So this is pretty big change. And also remember, if you're gonna be able to plant in this corner, right, the default one that we had before, you're probably already winning. So that doesn't really change much. But first, you have to take the seaside, and that's not going to be easy anymore like it was before, right? So you're going to be most likely planting on this spot. Now, think about it this way as well. Here right now, this is a potential post-plant position, because I'm assuming, judging by the visuals here, you're going to be able to jump up on those boxes from this ledge over here on the side. So you're going to be able to jump here and be in a post-plant position, which is pretty strong, to be honest. But also remember that a defender can play in this position as well. A chamber might be really annoying in this spot. Now, yeah, that's about when it comes to the when it comes to the plant positions. But the other changes are also very important, because just playing as a defender behind the new brick wall over here is completely different than it was in the past, because that state figure didn't have a dick, please. So when you were playing behind this wall in the past, you were able to reposition yourself behind the hard cover from this wall, right? You were able to hide yourself from long and so on. But right now with this new kind of wall, you don't really have that much space anymore. You're gonna be always exposed. You're gonna have much easier time clearing this area with a single molly. Like imagine, typically a raise nade lands over here or here. Now, if it lands behind this wall right on the right, you are able to hide behind the old wall in the safe spot here, and you are not being damaged by the raise grenade. But right now, that's not gonna be possible because there's no more spot here, right? So you're gonna have to be hugging the wall around it or even fully expose yourself in this spot. So that's gonna be terrible for the defender to even stand in this position. And if you just throw a molly on it, well, then you don't really have any space at all. So that's a big change. But let's talk about Killjoy, because Killjoy got wrecked. And I'm actually super happy, not because Killjoy got wrecked, but maybe it will make the teammates of mine more, let's say, filled with courage when attacking the site. Because typically a Killjoy has a nanoswarm over here, nanoswarm over here, alarm bot over here, and then a turret on this wall here. By the way, not the best turret that you can play, but I digress. So when that happened, the nanoswarms are being popped when the alarm bot is activated, and you cannot really attack to site, or you have to take like 60 damage, which essentially means not a single attacker will actually go through. Your jet committed, your race committed, they're on site, and then 3 guys are just sitting like bots in the Seaside entrance area, not moving because nanoswarm, much damage. Yeah. That's typically how it ends up in ranked, but I digress again. So right now, with all that in mind, think about how this being affected by the change. There's a lot more space now, so you can't really do those nanoswarms anymore because the players will just go here and just fully ignore them. Maybe take like 10 damage, and that's about it, right? So the Killjoy nanoswarms are not gonna be as efficient as before, because the only way of them being efficient is gonna be a nanoswarm in the entrance playing on contact of a turret that can be put in the corner over here, for example, right? So when the turret starts shooting here, you pop the nanoswarm, but it's still like deeper into the entrance of this site. So that's gonna be a huge change, because now you're gonna be able to commit more to the first part of the Seaside attack, because the nanoswarms are gonna be less efficient and easier to destroy, right? So that's gonna be a fun thing for the for the attackers, but at the same time, the added 50-50 angle, well, makes it much harder, right? I think characters like Breach are gonna have a lot of value. I mean, they already had a lot of value, but they would be having even more value because one aftershock clears this entire area and allows you to push into sight. Now, remember, those boxes you can shoot through, right? You can also do a one-way on them. So that's another possibility of how to hold off a defender from peeking you on contact from a turret, for example, over here in this corner. So there's a lot of variables right now when it comes to attacking Seaside. So even though it's the hold of the Seaside might be easier because of the added 50-50, it's gonna be easier for the attackers to go through because they're not gonna be just stopped in their tracks by a single Killjoy setup, right? So this is I think a fair change to the Seaside, because typically it was a fortress that was very hard to go through, and most likely we're gonna see more ciphers being played because of those changes as well, because Killjoy is just less efficient. The retake ultimate is also not that great because all of this area over here is not gonna get affected by it. Remember that the new post-plant position is gonna be most likely on the ramp. And now let's talk about the change that I like the least. From all of the changes on Lotus, I liked all of them, but there's one change that I don't like, and that's the platform itself. The platform itself is very awkward because of the crosshair placement. If you're pushing into this position, your opponent can be anywhere here. All of those positions can be their head. So there's no way of like peeking and being certain of where the head of the opponent will be. And the same goes for the retake, because now a player is gonna be able to be standing anywhere here, and when you go attack the site from CT, for example, you have also almost no way of predicting where is the player standing, so your crosser placement will be all over the place, and that's gonna be incredibly hard and incredibly frustrating experience for both the attackers and defenders. So holding on ramp is gonna be a huge advantage. Like in general, holding the ramp is gonna be a win condition in most cases, because of the incredible difficulty on pre-firing corners or making sure your crosser placement is just well done. So that's the only thing that I don't like, but in general, all of the changes on Lotus are great. I think the verdict is that most of the changes benefit the defenders, and the map was heavily attacker sided, which in my opinion, in general, in VALORANT is something that we need. I think majority of the maps should be attacker sided for it to be more interesting to watch and more interesting for the players to play, because it's incredibly frustrating when you're being stopped in your tracks because the defense is so efficient. But at the same time, Lotus was a little bit too much attacker sided and now might be more balanced, but still is gonna be the attacker sided favorite. Thank you for watching the first video on my new YouTube channel. Consider subscribing and leaving a comment, sharing it with your friends. The entirety of the content on this channel is gonna be solely focused on getting better at the game, both in ranked and also at the pro level. We're gonna analyze matches and analyze rounds and players, pro strats, and so on in the future. So yeah, see you around. Thank you for sticking to the end.